What's going on, everybody? And I hope you're enjoying your Monday afternoon so far. This is NYG Jeffy T85 here. And I'm just going to talk about some of the underrated positions that nobody's really talking about as much that the Giants could look to seek in the NFL draft and could honestly be more important positions that the Giants could potentially target going into the NFL draft rather than some of the positions that you're expecting them to go target in the NFL draft. Now, we all know that the top positions, it looks like that the New York Giants are going to have the most interest in the NFL draft, or it looks like that Joe Schoen, Brandon Brown, and Brian Daboll are going to be looking to target the most going into this upcoming NFL draft on April 27th to the 29th, is obviously going to be interior offensive line because of the fact that Nick Gates and John Feliciano departed in free agency. You have wide receiver that is filled with a bunch of players coming like reclamation projects or injured players coming on one-year deals or unguaranteed money. And you have a cornerback position that is a bunch of guys with one star on the team, but a lot of guys that are coming off injuries or more reclamation projects. Those you figure are the top three positions that the Giants could look for going into this NFL draft. Well, I'm going to talk about some other positions that the Giants might look to upgrading on this team, and that could potentially be part of the positions the Giants might go out there and surprise people and draft in the first and second round. Number one, I'm going to start with the inside linebacking position. Some people might think because of the fact that you just signed Bobby Okereke from the Indianapolis Colts to a 4-year, $40 million deal, that he's automatically, which he will be, the starting middle linebacker for the New York Giants if they play a 4-3. But if they play a 3-4, he'll be one of the starting interior inside linebackers for the team. And then obviously you have guys like Gerard Davis, Darian Beavers, and Michael McFadden that are going to be competing for the other spot at the inside linebacker position in 2023. I'm here to say that that's not exactly what I believe the Giants are going to be doing. I believe that the Giants are going to be looking at other players at that inside linebacking position in the NFL draft, and there's a lot of inside linebackers that are going to be coming out this year. You got Dalen Hanley, Drew Sanders, Trent Simpson, Jack Campbell, Noah Sewell, Owen Popoe, Henry Toyo, and DeMarvion Overshown. All interior linebackers that are going to be coming out of this NFL draft that could surely come in and give the Giants a little bit more of a boost at that linebacker position. And it's not out of the question the Giants could select one of these guys at the 25 position, or if they decide to trade forward or back a little bit so they can be in better position to draft one of these inside linebackers. The reason why? Is there any guarantee that Darian Beavers, who's coming off an ACL tear and is a 6th-round pick, is going to come in and immediately make the type of impact that the Giants fans and maybe the front office first thought that he could make? Remember, it takes a player at least a year or so to come back from an injury of that magnitude, and it takes a little bit while for them to get their NFL feet under them, especially with him being a rookie and pretty much having his whole entire rookie season scrapped. It might take a little bit longer for him to get adjusted to the NFL game. So it's not out of the question that a guy like Beavers needs a little bit more time to get himself acclimated, and it would be very difficult to just throw him into the linebacker position. That's why it would not be out of the question the Giants might look to a player like a Trenton Simpson or Jack Campbell or a DeMarvion Overshown or an Owen Popoe to potentially come in and fill in that middle linebacker position. Why not at this point? Why would you all of a sudden just be convinced that you're settled at this position? No, I don't think it's out of the question that Joe Schoen could see a linebacker that he looks at in the first round and says, you know what? That guy right there might be a potential answer to go with Bobby Okereke in the middle of our defense. And that could honestly be a big reason why this Giants team could end up being a lot better at the middle linebacker position. Because you need two standout guys. Giants have struggled and have not an impact linebacker for years since the days of Antonio Pierce when they won their first Super Bowl since 1990 in 2007 when Pierce was middle linebacker of that Super Bowl run team that beat the New England Patriots back in Super Bowl 42. So why not take a chance on getting another middle linebacker to go with a Karake? Then you could help Beavers, get healthy, and you can allow him to develop like a normal rookie going into his second season. McFadden can fill in as a rotational piece, and Gerard Davis can be a fifth linebacker on this team. Another position I would not be shocked the Giants could look to targeting at the first round pick, and I have not been the only one that's thought about this. A couple of my buddies have said the same thing. The defensive end / outside linebacker position could also be a position the Giants are going to look to potentially add at 25. What was the mantra of the New York Giants during their big run in the late 2000s, early 2010s when they won a couple of their Super Bowls? You could never have enough pass rushers. Even when the team had Michael Strahan, O.C. Umenyiora, and Justin Tuck, they still went out there in 2005 and they drafted a guy named Matthias Kiwanuka out of Boston College with their first round pick. And then even after Strahan retired and you had Tuck, Kiwanuka, and Umenyiora, they still went out in the first round and drafted a raw prospect out of the University of South Florida named Jason Pierre-Paul as a significant pass rusher. And they still brought him in because you could never have enough pass rushers. And I believe the same thing with this team right now. Jahide Ward was brought back on a one-year deal, but he's not really known as a pass rusher. He's more of a run stopper. That's his strength. Ellison Smith, who is a raw prospect that came out a couple of years ago, he's pretty much done nothing because he's been injured for the past couple of seasons. And Azeez Ojulari, who is, when he's played, he looks like an impact outside linebacker, but he's only played 5 games out of 17 last year. And Kayvon Thibodeau is still developing as a defensive or outside linebacker / defensive end. It does not hurt to get another big-time pass rusher. And when you have guys like, I believe Will Anderson will be drafted early, so I'm not counting him. But you have guys like Miles Murphy out of Clemson, Nolan Smith out of Georgia, Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech, Andre Carter out of Army, and Gerard Versay out of Florida State, to name a few, along with Felix Anudike Uzama out of Kansas State, and Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame. It's out of the question the Giants could look to draft another defensive end / outside linebacker to add into their core at the pass rush position. Why wouldn't you think that? More pass rushers, the better, and you could rotate all your guys, and you could keep everybody more fresh when you get towards the latter part of the season. I definitely could see this position still being a potential position the Giants could look at the number 25 position, number 25 pick. Why not at this point? It'd be foolish. It would be foolish not to entertain that. And then you look at the defensive tackle position. That's another one. You have Dexter Lawrence and you have Leonard Williams that are right now under contract. Dexter Lawrence could be in line for a major contract extension, and Leonard Williams is probably going to have his contract cut down because he's making about $32 million in this upcoming season. I don't see any way Joe Schoen and Brandon Brown are going to allow that contract to stay the way it is. I believe he's going to get some type of restructure, an extension short term, or it could eventually be cut, but I believe that's the second. That's like the least expected option that will happen when it comes to Leonard Williams. But it is not out of the question that the New York Giants could look to draft a defensive tackle with one of their high picks. And there's some solid defensive tackles in this upcoming draft. You got Brian Brise out of Clemson, who's a redshirt sophomore. That's a dominant defensive tackle. You got Jalen Carter, who is probably going to be one of the earlier draft picks, but you never know. After everything that happened with him during the combine issues, his stock could end up dropping, but a lot of people are comparing him to what Quinnen Williams was when he first came out of Alabama a few years ago. Carter is probably one of the best technical defensive tackle coming out of this draft. I mean, you got guys like Siaki Ika Baylor coming out of Baylor, another redshirt junior. That's a defensive tackle coming out of this draft. You got Khalid Kansi out of Pittsburgh, who some people are calling Baby Donald. Some people believe that this is the second coming of Aaron Donald because of the way he can overpower offensive linemen in the middle of a defense. That's another guy. You got Mozzie Smith out of Michigan, a senior, 4-year senior coming out of Michigan. That could be another guy that's coming out of this NFL draft. Or Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green. Another one, Moro Ojomo out of Texas. Another defensive tackle that's high praise coming out. Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin. There's tons of defensive tackles. Keandre Corbin out of Texas. There's depth at this defensive tackle position, and you're going to continue to need to reinforce your defensive line going forward. So do not think just because you have Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams, and plus you signed Rakeem Nunez-Roches, that that's it. You have DJ Davidson, who is a 5th-round pick, but he's coming off a severe knee injury that he suffered in the game against Green Bay last year. You need to add more depth to that defensive tackle position, and it's good to have a rotation of about 5 or 6 players. Right now the Giants have 4 on the roster, and you could really say 3.5, because who knows what Davidson's going to be like coming off that injury. So the defensive tackle position is another one that you cannot just all of a sudden think, oh, well, we're set there. Why don't we just try to lay low and stay the way it is? No. You attack that position if need be and if it's possible. And my wild card of the group, I don't think it's going to happen, but my wild card of this group is the safety position. Now we know that the Giants let go of Julian Love. He signed a 2-year, $12 million deal with Seattle. They were able to sign in Bobby McCain from the Washington Commanders, and they right now have under contract. You got Xavier McKinney, who has 1 year left on his deal, assuming the Giants are going to try to eventually work out a long-term extension with McKinney, but who really knows? He's been injured the past couple of seasons, and you have to wonder what's his standing with the team after what happened with the injury during the bye week where he got into that ATV accident. You got players like Dane Belton, the former 4th-round pick out of Iowa, who is now getting his opportunity to potentially be a bigger contributor with Love not on the team anymore. And you got Jason Pinnock, who the Giants like a lot as a potential depth safety, who played pretty well for the Giants last year in spot starts and, depth reasons on the team. But it is not out of the question the Giants could look to target the safety position as well. And you could even be surprised if they see a bunch of safeties that they like and they think that could be an impact safety going into the future. And if they don't believe that McKinney is going to be a long-term piece on this team, most Giants fans, including myself, believe that's the say. But who really knows at this point? Maybe they look at some of these safeties that are coming out of the draft. And you could look at a Brian Branch out of Alabama, an Antonio Johnson out of Texas A&M, a Sidney Brown out of Illinois, a Jordan Battle coming out of Alabama, a Jamie Robinson out of Florida State, a Christopher Smith out of Georgia, a J.L. Skinner out of Boise State, a Brandon Joseph out of Notre Dame, a Ronnie Hickman out of Ohio State, and Giari Brown out of Penn State. Who knows if any one of these players might be on the board for the Giants earlier on, and they might think, hey, why don't we think about maybe a safety? Because maybe we're not 100% committed to giving Xavier McKinney, who recently switched agents to First Team Sports recently, and he's going to be looking for the bag. Maybe the Giants would rather just go look into the draft, and they could surprise everybody and look at the safety position as an early round pick. Insert that guy. It'll make McKinney a little bit more expendable. He plays well, and then you could look to let McKinney go, and you have your safety of the future on this roster. Just throwing it out there, not saying it's going to happen, but you never know, and that's the one thing I like about Joe Schoen and Brandon Brown and Brian Dable. They might make you believe that they're going to be doing one thing, but they could end up doing something absolutely out of the ordinary and giving you a position that nobody expected them to target. Because I believe that the offensive line, the interior offensive linemen and the center players are going to be there in the second round. So I don't know if this team is going to go offensive center in the first round. Wide receiver is deeper at this position. There's no necessarily top prospects. You could look at Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison as some of the top players, including Jackson Smith and Jigba too. But this wide receiver position is deep in the NFL draft, and cornerback has got some solid players that you could even get in the second or third round. So you don't necessarily have to look into that position in the first round as well. That's why you cannot leave out of the question of a safety, a defensive tackle even, a defensive end / outside linebacker, or or an inside linebacker as a potential target that Joe Schoen and Brian Dable and the Giants could look to target in that first round. But you guys let me know in the comment section if you believe that these under-the-radar positions the Giants could target going to the NFL draft are true, are worthy of this discussion, or if you think that they're completely outlandish and you still strongly believe that the Giants are going to be going after an interior offensive lineman, a center namely, a wide receiver, a cornerback with their first-round pick. And, of course, hit that like button if you haven't already and give a sub to NYGJeffyT85. More news updates and chatter surrounding the New York Giants. And, as always, turn on the bell for notifications. The next video or short dropping on the channel surrounding the New York Giants. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Monday. Take it easy and let's go New York Football Giants. As always, together blue, everyone.